Zira had never seen a world like Earth. Her spaceship descended slowly over green fields and sparkling rivers, a place so full of life that it made her alien heart beat faster. On Orvia, her home planet, everything was controlled, measured, and ordered. Rules decided every choice: when to eat, when to sleep, and even whom to trust. Emotions were treated as weaknesses, and freedom was a word spoken only in whispers. But here, in this strange, bright world, she felt something she had never known before: a pull, a curiosity, and a strange warmth that seemed to rise from the ground itself. As she stepped out of her ship, her eyes widened at the sight of humans moving freely. They laughed with their mouths wide, spoke loudly, touched each other without hesitation. They did not hide behind shields or masks of formality. They smiled at strangers, waved at children playing near the river, and even invited a small, frightened dog to join their games. Zira tilted her head, unsure how to respond. In Orvia, she would have been scolded for looking too closely at others, for feeling emotions before analyzing their logic. Here, it seemed natural. It seemed beautiful. Her first encounter was with a young human woman named Mara. Mara had short brown hair and eyes that sparkled like sunlight on water. She approached Zira with a wide smile and extended her hand. "Hi, you're new here, right? Welcome." Zira hesitated, unsure of the proper gesture. On Orvia, greetings were formal, precise, almost cold. But Mara's hand was warm, her eyes full of curiosity, not judgment. Zira found herself shaking the hand, feeling a strange thrill run through her body. Her chest tightened in a way she could not explain. For the first time, she realized that some emotions were not weaknesses, they were invitations. Mara guided her through a human home, a place so open and welcoming that Zira felt her alien instincts tingle. There were no doors to hide behind, no schedules etched in stone, no whispers of, "Don't do this, don't do that." Humans ate together, laughed together, and shared stories as if words themselves could heal. Zira noticed that even small gestures like offering a cup of tea or placing a hand on someone's shoulder carried meaning she had never experienced. Every act seemed like a choice, made from the heart rather than dictated by law or tradition. Walking through the garden, Zira saw children chasing butterflies, their laughter floating in the air like music. She saw a man lying on the grass, reading aloud to a girl sitting beside him. Even strangers stopped to smile at one another. Zira's heart clenched. She realized how small and confined her life on Orvia had been, how much she had missed by living in rules and fear. Here, she saw trust in its purest form. She saw freedom without chaos, laughter without malice, and love without conditions. Yet fear lingered in Zira's mind. She remembered the warnings of her elders. Humans were unpredictable, emotions were dangerous, and bonds could lead to weakness. But standing there, under the orange glow of the setting sun, she could feel the human warmth touching something deep inside her. She wanted to belong. She wanted to be part of this strange, messy, beautiful life. Her body hummed with a mix of excitement and terror, the two feelings she was taught never to allow to coexist. That night, Zira lay on a soft bed, staring at the ceiling of the human home. She remembered Mara's smile, the children's laughter, and the gentle rhythm of life that was nothing like Orvia. Her heart ached with longing and hope at the same time. Could she learn to feel like this? Could she allow herself to embrace a world where freedom and choice were real? She did not know yet. But for the first time in her life, Zira realized that perhaps there was more to existence than following rules. Perhaps the universe was larger, brighter, and far more beautiful than she had ever imagined. And somewhere deep inside, a spark ignited, a spark that whispered softly, "This is only the beginning." The next morning, Zira woke to the sound of birds singing and the soft murmur of humans moving around the house. Everything felt alive, the warmth of the sunlight through the windows, the aroma of fresh bread, and the quiet laughter drifting from the kitchen. She hesitated at first, unsure how to step into this world so different from her own. On Orvia, mornings were precise, measured, and silent, filled with tasks dictated by strict schedules. But here, even the smallest action seemed alive with joy. Zira's heart raced with excitement and fear all at once. Mara found her standing by the window, staring at the garden. "Hey, sleepyhead. Come eat something," she said with a playful smile. Zira nodded and followed her into the kitchen, feeling a strange warmth in the human's presence. Mara moved easily, speaking to everyone as if she belonged to the home, and yet, she treated Zira as though she belonged too. Zira's chest tightened with emotion she could not name. It was not fear, not duty, not calculation, it was connection. And the very idea of it made her tremble. Breakfast was a lesson in human culture, Mara offered Zira food and explained that sharing meals was more than just eating, it was about trust and bonding. Zira watched humans pour tea, pass bread, and laugh over small stories. No one judged her for hesitation, no one demanded perfection. She felt clumsy, unsure, yet she also felt welcomed. This simple freedom, the ability to make choices without fear, fascinated her. Zira wondered why her own people never allowed such liberty. On Orvia, to show emotion was to invite scrutiny, even danger. Here, to show feeling was strength. After breakfast, Mara took Zira to the local park. Humans jogged, played, and spoke to strangers with a warmth Zira had never imagined. A man handed a lost child a flower, and another helped an elderly woman carry her groceries. Zira's alien mind struggled to comprehend it. "Why are they so open?" she asked quietly. Mara laughed. "Because we choose to be. Trust is not weakness, it is connection. And connection is what makes life worth living." Zira absorbed the words like sunlight. Each one seemed to shine into a corner of her heart she had never allowed to open. As they walked, Zira noticed herself relaxing. Her movements became less rigid, her senses more alive. She touched the bark of a tree, feeling its rough surface, smelled the flowers, and even laughed quietly when a dog ran past, chasing its tail. These simple things, mundane to humans, were revelations to her. For the first time, she felt her own freedom. She realized that life could be messy, unpredictable, and joyful all at once. And she wanted to feel it all. Yet the alien part of her whispered caution. She remembered her elders' warnings, the punishments for straying too far from tradition. Zira's mind wavered between excitement and fear. Could she truly embrace this life without betraying her own identity? Could she trust these humans who seemed so different, so unpredictable? Mara sensed her hesitation and gently squeezed her hand. Zira felt the warmth of human touch, a touch that did not demand or judge. And slowly, she let herself relax. By evening, Zira had experienced more freedom in one day than she had in her entire life on Orvia. She lay under a tree, watching the colors of the sunset blend into the sky. She thought about her own world, the order, the rules, the emotionless routines, and felt a quiet sadness. But alongside it, a new feeling stirred, hope. Perhaps she could learn a different way to live, one where her heart mattered as much as her mind. Perhaps she could belong somewhere, not just follow orders. As the stars appeared one by one, Zira felt the human world wrap around her like a soft blanket. For the first time, she wondered what it would be like to live fully, to embrace emotions, and to choose her own path. And deep inside, she felt a spark ignite, a spark that promised adventure, understanding, and a life she had never dared to dream. This world was strange, chaotic, and free. And somehow, in its freedom, Zira felt more alive than she had ever been. Zira began to feel at home in the human world. Every day was a discovery, a small miracle of emotion, warmth, and laughter. She spent her mornings learning human routines, making breakfast, watering the plants, and walking in the nearby park. Her afternoons were filled with conversations that seemed endless. Humans spoke about their dreams, fears, and memories with a depth that made Zira's chest tighten. On Orvia, feelings were hidden, whispered only in secret corners. Here, emotions were celebrated, shared openly. And Zira felt herself drawn in. Wanting to understand it all, her closest companion became Mara. The young human woman seemed to know instinctively how to guide Zira without pushing, how to teach without judging. They would walk through the city together, Mara explaining small details of human culture while Zira listened intently, asking endless questions. Zira was fascinated by how humans formed connections, not because of duty or obligation, but because they chose to care. She had never imagined that trust could be this natural, or that friendship could be so deeply freeing. One afternoon, Mara took Zira to a local community center. Children played freely, laughing as they chased each other around, while adults talked in groups, sharing advice, jokes, and stories. Mara said, "Humans grow strong through connection, Zira. Alone, we survive, but together, we thrive." Zira watched as a group of strangers came together to help a child who had fallen. No one hesitated. No one asked for permission. They just acted. Zira's alien heart ached with longing. Could she ever feel this way without fear? Could she ever embrace this kind of freedom? Slowly, Zira realized that she was changing. She laughed more freely, allowed herself to touch and be touched in friendly ways, and began to feel the warmth of human smiles in her chest. She started noticing subtle details, the way Mara's eyes sparkled when she laughed, or the way humans seemed to find comfort in each other's presence. Even small gestures, like a hand on a shoulder or an arm draped casually across a chair, carried a profound sense of care. Zira felt emotions she could not name, a blend of admiration, awe, and longing, yet she struggled. Her Orvian instincts warned her constantly. "Do not trust so easily," whispered the voice of her elders in her mind. "Do not reveal your heart. Control your feelings." But every time she heard the laughter of humans, every time Mara spoke with gentle patience, those warnings began to fade. She wanted to belong. She wanted to learn, to live, and to feel without fear. And for the first time, she felt courage, the courage to embrace a life that might be entirely different from anything she had known. Zira also met others in the community. Humans were curious about her, but not judgmental. They asked questions respectfully, listened carefully, and shared their own stories in return. Zira began to understand that humans valued honesty and openness above all. It was not weakness to show who you were, it was strength. And as she allowed herself to open up, she discovered that sharing her thoughts and feelings brought relief, joy, and a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. Evenings were the hardest. When Zira returned to her temporary quarters, she would sit by the window, thinking about Mara, the laughter of children, and the unspoken trust humans seemed to give each other so freely. Part of her missed Orvia, the order, the rules, the safety of predictability, but another part of her was growing, changing, daring to feel. She realized that she was not just observing humans anymore. She was living among them. She was learning what it meant to be free. One night, as the stars lit the sky, Mara sat beside Zira quietly. "You've come a long way," she said softly. Zira felt warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she was beginning to recognize as pride and maybe even love in the broadest sense. She nodded, unable to speak at first. For the first time, she felt that she could be herself, without fear, without rules, without judgment. And in that moment, she understood that friendship, trust, and connection were gifts, and that humans gave them freely to those willing to accept them. Zira closed her eyes, a small smile on her face, and whispered to herself, maybe I can belong here." Days turned into weeks, and Zira's connection with humans deepened. She no longer saw herself as just a visitor or an observer. She was becoming part of their lives. Every morning, she woke with anticipation, wondering what small discoveries the day would bring. She laughed with children in the park, helped elders carry groceries, and shared quiet moments with Mara, who seemed to understand her in ways no one else had. But one human, Eli, had begun to stand out. Eli was quiet, calm, and observant. He had eyes that seemed to see through walls, noticing things others overlooked. At first, Zira was cautious. Her alien instincts warned her to keep distance. But Eli's gentle nature and patient presence drew her in. They spent hours walking through forests, talking about stars, planets, and the mysteries of life. Zira found herself opening up in ways she never imagined. She shared memories of Orvia, the cold discipline, the rigid rules, the silence of suppressed emotion. Ele listened without judgment, offering understanding rather than advice. And for the first time, Zira realized what it meant to feel truly heard. It was during one of these evening walks that Zira felt the strange ache of longing she had never experienced before. They sat by a river, watching the water shimmer under the moonlight. Zira noticed Eli's hand resting casually near hers. Without thinking, she placed her hand on his. The warmth of contact spread through her chest, a mixture of comfort, curiosity, and something deeper she could not name. Eli smiled softly, not saying a word, letting her feel the connection without forcing it. Zira's alien heart raced, and she realized that this freedom to trust, to feel, to connect was unlike anything on Orvia. But along with the joy came fear. Every time Zira allowed herself to feel, her mind whispered warnings. What if she misjudged Eli? What if this connection brought disappointment or pain? On Orvia, vulnerability was weakness. But humans, she slowly understood, valued vulnerability as strength. Ayla's patience and care were lessons Zira absorbed slowly, learning that emotions were not chains, they were bridges. Bridges that connected hearts across differences, across worlds. Over the following days, Zira found herself looking forward to moments with Eli more than anything else. She began to recognize small gestures, the tilt of his head when he listened, the subtle encouragement in his words, the way he offered comfort without asking for anything in return. With him, she felt safe to explore her feelings, to laugh freely, and even to cry without shame. And with each passing moment, Zira's alien mind began to understand a profound truth, that trust and closeness were gifts, and that choosing to embrace them was courage, not folly. Yet, despite the warmth and security, Zira struggled internally. Part of her feared that giving her heart to humans would be dangerous, that it might expose her to harm or make her weak in the eyes of her own people. But every time she looked at Eli, every time he met her gaze with quiet reassurance, her fear softened. She began to realize that strength was not in avoiding emotion, but in allowing herself to feel fully and sincerely. One night, under the silver glow of the moon, Zira and Eli lay side by side on a hill, staring at the stars. Words were unnecessary. They shared the silence, the gentle touch, and the understanding that had grown between them. Zira felt a surge of gratitude and wonder. Here, in this foreign world, she had found someone who accepted her completely. She realized that this bond built on trust, respect, and emotional honesty was more powerful than any rule or tradition. She had known Dot as she closed her eyes and rested her hand in his. Zira's thoughts drifted to a single truth. She had never imagined that life could feel this full, this vibrant, and this meaningful. And in that quiet moment, she allowed herself to hope. Hope that she could stay, hope that she could belong, and hope that humans had more to teach her about courage, love, and the freedom to choose her own path. Life on Earth had begun to feel like home for Zira. Yet the memory of Orvia lingered like a shadow. She had discovered trust, friendship, and emotional freedom with humans, and her bond with Eli had grown stronger every day. But her alien past was never far behind. One evening, as she walked through the park with Mara, she noticed strange lights streaking across the sky. Orvian patrol ships, descending swiftly. Her chest tightened. Fear rose like a tide she had learned to contain, but never fully suppress. When the Orvians landed, their presence filled the human village with tension. Elders in their flowing ceremonial robes stepped out, their eyes sharp, voices commanding. "Zira," one said, the tone cold and unwavering, "you have strayed from your duties. You must return immediately." The words felt like chains wrapping around her chest. The humans around her watched in silence, uncertain. As Zira faced a choice she had never expected to confront so directly, Zira's heart raced. On Orvia, obedience was everything. Disobedience brought shame, punishment, even exile. But here, she had discovered a different life, a life where choices mattered, where emotions were respected, where bonds were genuine. She looked at Eli, standing a few feet away, his eyes steady, silent support in their depths. She felt a pull between two worlds, one defined by rules and fear, the other by freedom and trust. Her elder's words cut deeper than she expected. "You are forgetting your responsibilities. Your people will not tolerate your weakness." Zira swallowed hard. Her hands trembled. She remembered the warmth of Mara's hand, the laughter of children, the quiet strength of Eli's presence. She realized that what she had learned here was not weakness, it was courage. Courage to choose, to feel, to live. The humans around her, sensing her struggle, offered quiet support. Mara stepped closer and whispered, "You have a right to choose your own life, Zira. Trust your heart." Zira felt tears prick at her eyes. She had never known words could carry such weight. Her mind raced, torn between duty and desire, between fear and hope. She realized that leaving now would mean returning to a life where she could not laugh freely, love honestly, or feel without restraint. Zira closed her eyes and took a deep breath. For the first time, she spoke not with fear or obedience, but with conviction. "I cannot return," she said, her voice steady, echoing with newfound strength. "I have learned a different way to live, and I will not abandon it." The Orvian elders' faces hardened, their eyes narrowing. They spoke of punishment, of exile, of shame, but Zira felt none of it. For the first time, she understood that strength was not in fear or control, but in standing for what her heart believed. Eli stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You are not alone," he said simply. The warmth of his presence grounded her, reminded her that she had found a family here, one not bound by rules, but by trust. Zira felt a surge of determination. She would not let fear decide her life. She had discovered freedom, and she would protect it. The elders finally departed, their ships retreating into the night sky, but their threat lingered. Zira knew that choosing her own path would not be easy. There would be consequences, judgment, and perhaps loneliness from her own people. Yet, standing there, under the silver glow of the moon, she felt more alive than ever. She had embraced courage, and courage carried its own power. As she turned back to Eli and Mara, Zira realized that life was no longer about rules, schedules, or obedience. Life was about choices, trust, and the courage to follow one's heart. And for the first time, she truly understood what it meant to live. Her chest swelled with emotion, a mixture of relief, love, and hope. She had made her choice, and in doing so, she had claimed her freedom. Zira looked at the stars, knowing that her journey was only beginning. The universe was vast, full of challenges, but also full of beauty. And in this moment, she understood that courage was strongest when it came from the heart. The morning after her confrontation with the Orvian elders, Zira woke with a mixture of relief and determination. She had made her choice, and the weight of it settled on her shoulders like both a burden and a crown. For the first time in her life, she was fully responsible for herself, her actions, and her emotions. The humans around her, Mara, Eli, and even the neighbors she had grown to know watched her not with judgment, but with respect. It was a feeling Zira had never experienced before, and it strengthened her resolve. She spent the day walking through the town, observing life in motion. Humans moved freely, each person creating their own path while remaining connected to the community. Zira noticed the subtle ways people showed care, an elder helping a child tie a shoelace, neighbors sharing food, laughter echoing from open windows. Every interaction reminded her that connection and choice were the essence of freedom. She realized that to truly live, she could no longer cling to the safety of rules and obedience. She had to embrace life fully, with all its uncertainties. Mara joined her later, leading Zira to a quiet hill overlooking the city. "It's beautiful," Mara said, her eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. "Just like life, messy, unpredictable, but beautiful." Zira nodded. She had begun to understand the meaning behind human freedom. It was not chaos, but responsibility. Freedom meant choosing your path, facing challenges, and owning your decisions. For the first time, Zira felt like she had the power to shape her destiny, rather than merely follow orders. That evening, Zira spent hours with Eli, walking along a riverbank that glittered under the moonlight. Words flowed easily between them, sharing thoughts, hopes, and even fears. Zira told Eli about her life on Orvia, the rigid schedules, the cold discipline, and the constant fear of failure. Eli listened without interruption, his calm presence giving her courage. "You've changed," he said softly. "You've learned something many never do. You've learned to live fully." Zira felt her chest swell with emotion. To be understood so completely was a gift she had never known. Days passed, and Zira embraced her new life more boldly. She laughed with humans, helped wherever she could, and allowed herself to feel emotions she had been taught to suppress. She realized that her alien instincts, caution, self-control, and precision, were not weaknesses. When guided by choice and heart, they became tools to navigate a complex, vibrant life. She began to understand that strength came from balance, knowing when to act, when to trust, and when to let go. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Zira found herself reflecting on her journey. She thought of her people on Orvia and the rules she had once followed blindly. She realized that freedom did not mean abandoning her identity. It meant expanding it. She could be both an alien and a member of this human world. She could honor her origins while embracing what she had learned here: trust, connection, and the courage to choose. Eli joined her quietly, slipping his hand into hers. Zira felt a warmth spread through her, a mixture of friendship, trust, and something deeper. In his presence she understood the beauty of connection, the kind humans called love, but without the strict definitions or obligations of her home planet. Here, feelings were chosen, shared, and respected. And Zira had chosen to embrace them fully. That night, as she lay under the stars, Zira smiled softly. The challenges she had faced, the fears she had conquered, and the choices she had made had transformed her. She was no longer the cautious, restrained alien who had arrived timidly on Earth. She was someone who had discovered courage, trust, and the joy of freedom. And with Mara, Eli, and the human community around her, she knew that she had found her place. A home built not on rules, but on the heart. Zira closed her eyes, letting the cool night air wash over her. She felt alive, complete, and ready for whatever the universe had in store. The journey of discovering herself was far from over, but for the first time, she faced the future with hope, strength, and the unshakable belief that she could choose her own path. Months passed, and Zira had fully embraced her life on Earth, the human world. Once strange and overwhelming, now felt like home. She woke each morning with a sense of purpose and excitement, eager to discover new things, share laughter, and connect with those around her. Mara had become a sister in every way, guiding her gently, celebrating her victories, and comforting her in moments of doubt. Eli remained a quiet anchor, a constant presence of trust and understanding that reminded her of the strength in choice and connection. Zira spent her days helping the community. She taught children about the stars, shared stories of her home planet, and learned about the wonders of Earth in return. Every interaction deepened her sense of belonging. She no longer feared the unpredictability of life. Instead, she welcomed it. Freedom, she realized, was not about the absence of rules. It was about being brave enough to live authentically, to trust others, and to let one's heart guide the way. Sometimes, she still thought of Orvia. She remembered the rigid routines, the cold discipline, and the warnings of her elders. But she also remembered the fear she had conquered and the joy she had discovered in human connection. Zira understood that she could honor her past without being bound by it. She could be both Orvian and a part of this vibrant, emotional, and free world. That realization gave her a sense of peace she had never known before. One evening, Zira walked with Eli to the hill where they had first shared their quiet talks. The sky was painted in shades of purple and gold, and the stars began to twinkle like distant fires. Eli looked at her and smiled, a gentle warmth in his gaze. Zira felt a wave of emotion she could not suppress: gratitude, love, hope, and courage all mingling together. She realized that life was more than survival, more than rules and expectations. Life was about trust, choice, and the connections we build with those who open their hearts to us. They sat together in silence, feeling the breeze and listening to the soft rustle of leaves. Zira allowed herself to fully experience the moment, without hesitation, without fear. She felt the joy of being understood, of being accepted for who she truly was. For the first time in her life, she could say without doubt that she belonged. Not because anyone demanded it, but because she had chosen it. In the following weeks, Zira continued to grow. She explored the world with Mara and Eli, learned new skills, and formed bonds with more humans who welcomed her as one of their own. Each day brought laughter, learning, and small adventures. She reveled in the freedom to be herself, knowing that every choice she made was a step toward the life she had always wanted, but had never dared to imagine. One night, as she gazed at the stars from her favorite hill, Zira whispered softly to herself, "I am free. I am alive. I belong." The words felt like a promise, not only to herself but to the universe. She had discovered courage, trust, and emotional strength. She had learned that freedom was not merely escaping rules. It was embracing life fully, with all its challenges, beauty, and unpredictability. And so, Zira's journey continued not as a visitor in a strange world, but as a part of it. Humans had taught her what it meant to feel, to trust, and to choose her own path. And in return, she shared her perspective, her stories, and her heart. She had found not just a home, but a life filled with love, connection, and the freedom to be wholly herself. Under the wide sky, Zira smiled, knowing that the universe was vast, full of mysteries and possibilities. But she no longer feared it. With courage in her heart, friends by her side, and the freedom she had fought to claim, Zira was ready to face whatever came next. She had chosen her path, and in that choice, she had truly found herself. The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter that night, as if the universe itself recognized her courage, her freedom, and the life she had claimed.